So our today's topic is topic number 8. Topic number 8 in our syllabus. Is topic number 8, which is called directors of a company. Want to look at directors of a company. Okay, good morning. Okay. We can write a director is a person. A director is a person who is responsible. A director is a person who is responsible for the overall direction, who is responsible for the overall direction, of the affairs of a company, The board of directors is the administrative organ. The board of directors is the administrative organ and the brain of the company. The legal position of a director, is explained or is described as follows. Point number 1, an agent of the company. Number 2, a trustee of the shareholders. Number 3, a fiduciary of the company. Another one is a shareholder. Number 5, an officer of the company. So when we talk about the directors, we are talking of a person or persons who are responsible for the general direction of the company. That's why we have gone ahead to say they are the admin. They are the administration organ. They are the brain of the company. So they are the ones to come up with the policies. But when you look at it from a legal term, the word director could be taken to mean very many things, which we have listed here. 1, a director is an agent of the company. What that means, he can act on behalf of the company. And he actually acts on behalf of the company, and the company is deemed to be the principal, as in the company will be held responsible. Number two, he is a trustee of the shareholders. A trustee is a person who is supposed to oversee the interests of others. So he is there to oversee the interest of the shareholders. Fiduciary means you must act bona fide. To act bona fide means you act in the best interests. So he's supposed in all his dealings to act in the best interest of the company. When we talk of him being a shareholder, you remember we said that there are qualification shares. There are some shares that a director must hold. For you to be a director, you must hold some shares. We call them the qualification shares. And then he's also an officer of the company. That means he's able to execute some functions of the company. And as we'll be discussing in the next 1 or 2 minutes, they are so-called executive directors who also now perform or function as employees of the company. Okay, then down there we write that there are various categories of directors. There are various categories of directors, some of which are explained below. Some of which are explained below. Number one, executive directors. Or executive director. Executive director. Write that. This is a director who performs. This is a director who performs a specific role in a company. Director who performs a specific role in a company under a service contract. Under a service contract which requires a regular and possibly daily involvement in management. And possibly daily involvement in management. This director is therefore also an employee of the company. This director, therefore, also an employee of the company. Number two is non-executive director. Non-executive director. Non-executive director. Write that this is a director who does not have a function. This is a director who does not have a function to perform, does not have a function to perform in a company's management. In a company's management. But is involved in the governance of the company. But is involved in the governance of the company. These directors are necessary for the following reasons. These directors are necessary for the following reasons. One, they contribute an independent view They contribute an independent view. An independent view to the board's deliberations. To the board's deliberations. Number two, they help the board to provide. They help the board to provide effective leadership. They help the board to provide effective leadership to the company. Effective leadership to the company. Number three, they ensure the continuing effectiveness. Continuing effectiveness. They ensure the continuing effectiveness of the executive directors and management. Of the executive directors and management. Another point is that they ensure high standards of financial probity. They ensure high standards of financial probity. Financial probity on the part of the company. High standards of financial probity on the part of the company. So those are that is about the non-executive directors. Number three, we call them de jure or de jure. Jure director. De jure director. And rather, this is a director who has been validly appointed. Who has been validly appointed. Validly appointed using a standard procedure. Using a standard procedure. Number four, we have what we call de facto director. De facto director. De facto director. And we write that this is a director who has not been validly appointed, who has not been validly appointed, but continues to take part. In decision-making process of the board. In decision-making process of the board. Of the board. So that is what we call types of directors. And we are saying we have the so-called executive directors. These are guys who are also involved in specific actions or roles of the management of the company. And they do it in a very regular basis, in most cases on a daily basis. Like what we have here at Destiny, We have someone called finance director. We have someone called director of studies. We have someone called the principal. Those are executive directors. They are directors of the company and they are also employees of the company. Yeah. Number two, we have the non-executive. These are directors who are not involved in the operations. They are not involved in the day-to-day running of the business. They only come in at the board meetings. And in case there is a committee of the board, that's when they come in to offer their advice for the policies of the company. Now, these ones, they are very, very important in any company because number one, they provide what we call a neutral view, an independent view. You see, these executives, they could have some biases. They could have some biases. Like when now we are talking about anything to do with the finance and the finance director is there, or we are talking about something to do with studies and the director of studies is there, or we are talking about marketing and the director of marketing is there. They could have some biasness. But when we have a neutral person, they will give us a very honest view. They are not influenced by what do I stand to lose, what do I stand to gain. The other thing is that they ensure that the company is enjoying effective leadership from the board. They put checks and balances. Number three, they continue to check again on the excesses of the executives and the management. They keep on ensuring that these guys are doing what they should do within the confines of the relevant regulations. They also ensure that there is financial probity or financial integrity. We don't have misuse of funds, misuse of resources in the company. Then we have what we call the de jure directors. These are directors who are in office legally, or they have gone through the normal procedure of being appointed to become a director, and they have all the qualifications. But we also have the so-called de facto. Now, de facto is someone who has not been voted by anyone. They have voted themselves, and they start acting like that. We have de facto leaders. So these guys, no one subjected them to the appointment process, but somehow they find themselves in the board of directors, and they make decisions as board is making. And in the event that there will be anything that will require them to be held accountable, you remember there is a concept we call the estopel. That means they will be stopped from denying that they were directors. Good. Let's look at qualifications and appointment of directors. Qualifications and appointment of directors. Qualifications and appointment of directors. So we want to look at what are some of the things that you must do for you to be appointed a director. One, hold qualification shares. Hold qualification shares. Hold qualification share as determined by the articles. As determined by the articles of association. Number two is age between 18 and 70 years. Age between 18 and 70 years. Unless a special resolution. Unless a special resolution has been passed, unless a special resolution has been passed to appoint an overage director. To appoint an overage director. Another one is be of sound mind. Be of sound mind. Be of sound mind. Another qualification is not have been declared bankrupt. not have been declared bankrupt. Not to have been declared bankrupt. Another one is not to have been disqualified by a court of law. Not to have been disqualified by a court of law. Another one, a natural person. A natural person. Natural person. And another one is not a fictitious. Not a fictitious person. Not a fictitious person. So those are the qualifications that are required for a person to be validly appointed as a director, to qualify. That number one, you must hold what we have called the qualification shares. Number two, you must be aged between 18 and 70. Why we are insisting on 18 is that that is the age at which you can make a legally binding contract. But nonetheless, we can have situations where we want to appoint someone who is over 70 years old. But that must be done by passing what we call a special resolution, and we say that must be supported by at least 75% of the members present in the meeting. The other thing is the person must be of sound mind, and if we doubt, they need to be subjected to the mental health act, so that we confirm that this person is okay. The person must not have been declared bankrupt, must not have been prevented by a court. With all due respect, in this country, we have seen some persons who have been appointed even by the president to be board members, but some people have gone to the court and they have said, and the court have pronounced themselves that this person is not fit to be there in the board. I don't want to mention any name for my own security reasons. The other one is you must be a natural person. A natural person, we say, is a person who was created by God, like you and me. Must not be a legal person. And then it must not be a fictitious person. Fictitious is someone who is like non-existent, is someone who is not known. There are some companies, like there are days they were saying, again, let me not mention the names, so that I'm not called to explain and I may not be able. There are some companies you hear their shareholders who are not known. Even very reputable companies, you hear there is a particular shareholding, you do not know who holds it. That is a case of what? None, or rather a fictitious person. Those debates have been there, especially in the political world. Okay. The next thing that we need to look at is rules relating to the appointment of company directors. Rules relating to the appointment of company directors. Rules relating to the appointment of company directors. Relating to the appointment of company directors. Point number one, we say that appointment is by an ordinary resolution. Appointment is by an ordinary resolution in the AGM. Appointment is by an ordinary resolution in the company AGM. Number two, a private company should have at least, one director, should have at least one director, while a public one should have at least two directors. A private company should have at least one director, while a public one should have at least two. Number three, directors are voted into office individually. Directors are voted into office individually although two or more directors can be voted into office, two or more directors can be voted into office by a single resolution, can be voted into office by a single resolution, provided that members have agreed. Provided that members have agreed. Provided that members have agreed. Number 4, after an individual appointment as a director, after an individual appointment as a director, the director needs to sign. The director needs to sign a written consent. A written consent to show authorization. Written consent to show authorization to represent the company as a director. To represent the company as a director. So those are the rules that guide the appointment of company directors. And number 1, we're saying appointment must be via an ordinary resolution. So that means members in the AGM must vote with a simple majority. And that is now what gives us what we have called the de jure directors. There is a procedure that is supposed to be followed. And then we are saying that if you are holding or if you have a private company, you can just have 1 director. If you have a public company, you can have a minimum of 2. The other rule is you can be voted in collectively in a group by 1 resolution. But when you assume office as an individual. So in your acts, you must always act as an individual, not acting in the group mentality. The other thing is that once you have been appointed a director, there is a document that you need to sign that clarifies that you have agreed and also signifies or gives us the mandate or gives us the indication that you have been given powers to act as an agent of the company, to represent the company in whichever aspect you'll be required as a director. Okay, let's now look at disqualification for appointment as directors. Disqualification. Right, that the office of a director can be declared vacant the office of a director can be declared vacant in the following circumstances. in the following circumstances. One, a director does not satisfy. The director does not satisfy the qualifications for appointment. Does not satisfy the qualifications for appointment as stipulated in the Companies Act. As stipulated in the Companies Act. Into brackets, the 7 reasons mentioned earlier. The 7 reasons mentioned earlier. What do you mean by that is, I've given you a list of 7 items that will make someone to be qualified. So if you have violated those qualifications, like you do not hold the qualification shares, you are not aged between 18 and what? 70. You are not of sound mind. You have been declared bankrupt. You have been disqualified by a court of law. You are not a natural person. You are also a fictitious person. Those are grounds that will make you to be disqualified. Number 2, a director has failed to attend. A director has failed to attend directors' meetings. Directors' meeting for a continuous period. For a continuous period. For a continuous period greater than 6 months. For a continuous period greater than 6 months. Greater than 6 months without any justifiable reason. Without any justifiable reason. Number 3, a director has entered into a credit agreement. A director has entered into a credit agreement that compromises their debt position. That compromises their debt position. Their debt position. Number 4, a director has resigned from the company with a written notice. The director has resigned from the company with a written notice. From the company with a written notice. Another one is, a director has been convicted. A director has been convicted of offenses. Of offenses relating to promotion or formation of a company. Offenses relating to promotion or formation of a company. of a company, comma, management and liquidation. Management and liquidation. Another reason is in case of a foreigner, in case of a foreigner, in case of the foreigner, the person is disqualified. Person is disqualified under the law of a country. Under the law of the country. On grounds such as misconduct. On grounds such as misconduct, incompetence, mental or physical incapacities. Another one, number 7. If a director has been removed from office, if a director has been removed from office by an ordinary resolution, or by special notice, by members in the AGM. Okay, then down there you write that the removal of directors from office, can further be categorized as follows. One, removal by ordinary resolution. Removal by ordinary solutions. Yes. For such reasons as bankruptcy, resignation, failure to attend meetings, etc. Number 2, retirement by rotation. And we explained kidogo. Failure to be re-elected. At the AGM. Failure to be re-elected at the AGM when a third of directors must resign or must retire. where a third of directors must retire. Another one is number 3, disqualification by the court. Disqualification by the court. Disqualification by the court or any other authority. By the court or any other authority. And number 4 is removal under the Companies Act Codes of Association. Removal under the Companies Act Codes of Association. Act Codes of Association. Okay, so that is how directors can be removed. We have given very many reasons, and then we have said you can also classify. There is the removal by ordinary dissolution, there is retirement by rotation, there is disqualification by the court or other authority, and removal under the Companies Act Codes of Association. Now look at this question of April 2022. April 2022, question 3A. April 2022, question 3A. April 2022, question 3A. Read for us.
Summarize 6 grounds for disqualification of director.
Good. Summarize 6 grounds for disqualification by of directors. So number 1, you do not satisfy the qualifications. And we are saying the qualifications are very many. You do not hold the shares. You are not of the right age bracket. You are not of sound mind. You have been declared what? Bankrupt. You have been disqualified by the court. You are not a natural person. You are fictitious. That is from the qualifications. I'm saying that question you could answer by looking at the qualifications. You now deny those qualifications. Then looking at what we have called the disqualifications, we have said number 1, you fail to satisfy the qualifications. Number 2, you fail to attend what? The meetings. That's another reason. Number 3, you have entered into a debt agreement that compromises your debt position. You have resigned. Then you have been convicted of offenses. And then in case you are a foreigner, the host country's laws, they bar you from being a director, and you have been removed by an ordinary solution. Yeah, so those are very many reasons. Actually, from the 7 qualifications, you can get 7 reasons. Yeah. Then tukikuta hapa kwa disqualifications, unaongeza number 2, that is 8, 3, that is 9, 4, that is 10, number 5, or number 5 was also mentioned in the disqualifications. Then in the case of foreigner, so that is 10, yeah, and being removed. So there are very many reasons as to why you can be disqualified from being a director. The other one is May 2016, question 1A. May 2016, question 1A. May 2016, question 1A. Page start. Okay. Page 30, May 2016, question 1A. Let's so we can have Alice. Mayona.
Describe five grounds upon which a person contributes for adding
Yeah, 5 grounds. So we have given very many grounds, almost 10 or 11, why you can be disqualified from being a director. Another question is September 2015, question 7B. September 2015, question 7B. September 2015.
Explain what circumstances in which the office of the director.
Yeah, 4 circumstances under which the office of the directors can be vacated. So again, that question you can answer by stating the grounds, or you can give the 4 classifications that I've given you. That it could be you have been removed by ordinary what? Resolution, watu kwa mkutano wamepitisha, or you have been removed because of retirement. Remember, a third of directors must retire at the AGM, but they are subject to re-election. So if members do not revote you, then you will say you have been removed. The other one is when the court of law has declared that you are not fit, and the other one is when the articles declare that you are not fit, or when you fail to satisfy the terms of the articles. So those are the 4 classifications. Then for your assignment, I would like you to do this. Outline the procedure of removing a director. Outline the procedure of removing a director by an ordinary resolution. By an ordinary resolution. By an ordinary resolution. So that one, you can read back a space of like 10 lines. There are around 6 steps. Okay, so I think that is fine. The next thing that we need to discuss is called care and skill duties of a director. At common law. At common law. So the duties of directors are guided by various rulings, which at times they repeat themselves. So we want to look at what are the duties of a director. What are the duties of a director that are given under common law? And remember, when you talk about common law, it is more of care and skill. Just exercising general care, being careful, not being reckless. So we can write that These duties were summarized by Roma J. These duties were summarized by Roma J. Roma J. In city equitable fire. Equitable fire. In city equitable fire. Sorry. Equitable fire insurance company. Insurance company limited. As follows. So these duties were summarized by Roma J. in City Equitable Fire Insurance Company Limited as follows. As follows. The first duty is a director need not exhibit. A director need not exhibit in the performance of his duties, need not exhibit in the performance of his duties a greater degree of skill. A greater degree of skill a greater degree of skill than may reasonably be expected. Than may reasonably be expected. Be expected from a person of his knowledge. From a person of his knowledge and experience. And experience. E.g., a foolish director cannot be held liable. Cannot be held liable of negligence. Cannot be held liable of negligence for loss suffered by the company. For loss suffered by the company as a result of his foolish decision. As a result of his foolish decision. Number 2. A director is not bound to give. A director is not bound to give continuous attention. It's not bound to give continuous attention to the affairs of the company. The affairs of the company. His duties are, let's still on that point. His duties are intermittent. His duties are intermittent. Performed at periodical board meetings. Intermittent. Performed at periodical board meetings. periodical board meetings, and any meeting of a committee of the board, committee of the board. Full stop. Number 3. In respect of all duties, and the absence of any ground, for suspicion, a director is justified to delegate and trust that an official will perform the delegated duties honestly. To stop still on the same point, a business cannot be run on the basis of mistrust. A business cannot be run on the basis of mistrust. There is this question of May 2019. Question 6A. May 2019, question 6A. Rita, you can read for us.
In the letter of the division of directors, discuss the positions of care, skill, and diligence as enumerated in CT, Visible Fire Insurance Company.
Yeah, so those are what we are calling the duties of care and skill. And number 1, tumesema, you are not expected or you are not under duty to portray a higher level of experience or expertise than is reasonably expected of you. Like you people, the far you have gone as far as CPA is concerned is section 3. You have not even passed section 3. So if someone was to give you a duty, they should not expect you to perform like a person who has completed CPA. We expect you actually only to perform like a person who has passed section 2. So if we have a foolish director and he makes a foolish decision, you should not accuse him. You should not expect a foolish director to make a wise decision. You only accuse the foolish director if you can prove that he made a very foolish decision. We expect him to make foolish, but not very. If you have a wise director, again, you cannot expect him to make very wise decisions. He's just wise, but he's not very wise. Now that becomes very difficult to determine how or at what point we say someone is wise and very wise. Someone is a fool or is foolish and very foolish. Yeah, that becomes a debate. The other thing is a director is not supposed to give or is not under duty to do what I would call micromanage, to give continuous attention to the affairs of the company. That is the work of the managers. He's not supposed to be involved with a day-to-day running. And his duties or the duties of a director are periodical. They are intermittent, meaning they are temporal. They should only be exercised at the board when there is a board meeting. And you find in most companies, boards are held after every 3 months. So they have quarterly meetings. And in case there is a committee of the board, maybe there is a finance committee, there is infrastructure committee, there is quality committee, or any other committee that can be formed at the wisdom of the board of directors, then in exercising the mandate of that committee, you are supposed to be, or you are deemed to be exercising your duties. But if you have been absent, that is not a big issue, but you must not be absent for more than 6 months. You will be removed. The other thing is that it is also okay for the director to delegate. And you delegate to an individual who you believe they can do the job. Not unless it is proved that by the time you are delegating, you did not have a ground to trust them, or you had grounds not to trust them. And there is a very, very important point they are saying here, that business cannot be run on basis of what? Mistrust. Actually, not only business, any relationship cannot be run on basis of what? So you are at the age of forming relationships. Maybe some of you are already in very serious relationships. Can you run a relationship on the basis of mistrust? Yeah. Like now, those of you who are here physically, if you are married, how sure is your husband that you are in class? You see, the person must trust that ulitoka kwa nyumba ukasema nimeenda class. He must trust that you are actually in class. Hata wewe kwenye alikwambia hapo, ama kwenye unafikiria hapo, you must trust that ako. When I'm in this class, my wife must trust that I'm in class. She may not confirm that I'm in class, but ukimuuliza kwa kichwa yake, I should be in class, or at least in destiny. But ukianza kuwa na lot of mistrust, you can't go anywhere. And fortunately in life, what you look for, you get it. Is that so? That's a debate for another day. The next thing is called fiduciary duties. Fiduciary duties of directors as enunciated by courts of equity. So the fiduciary, the trust, again, the acting in a bona fide way. And these ones are determined by courts. It is not common law. One is declare any interests. Declare any interests. In a contract with the company. In a contract with the company at the first board meeting. At the first board meeting after the interest arose. After interest arose. Stop. Still on the same point is The director shall not vote in respect of that contract. The director shall not vote in respect of that contract. And shall not be counted. And shall not be counted in determining quorum. In determining quorum of the meeting. In determining quorum of the meeting. Number 2 is surrender to the company. Surrender to the company any benefit from a contract. Any benefit from a contract that was intended to be for the company. That was intended to be for the company. But the director diverted it to self. But the director diverted it to self. Next is act in good faith. Act in good faith. In what they consider. In what they consider to be in the best interest of the company. In what they consider to be in the best interest of the company. Best interest of the company. Number 4, approach the company affairs in an open mind. Approach the company affairs in an open mind. In an open mind. And must deliberate. And must deliberate on the duty of the meeting. Deliberate on the duty of the meeting. And should not agree in advance. And should not agree in advance on how they are going to vote. On how they are going to vote. Another one is exercise power for proper purposes. Exercise power for proper purposes. That is act intra vires. Act intra vires. So those are the duties that are expected of a director from the courts of law. That number 1, if the company is engaging in a contract and you develop some interests, maybe the company wants to buy land and you have land that you can sell to the company, you must declare your interest. Or maybe the company wants to procure something and you can be able to facilitate the procurement. You must declare your interest. And you are supposed to do that in the earliest opportunity possible. That is the very first board meeting after the interest has come up. And in this meeting, where they are discussing this contract, you are not supposed to vote. And you are not supposed to be considered as part of the quorum. Remember, we talked of one of the proper requirements, one of the legal requirements of a valid meeting is proper quorum. So in regard to the quorum, you are not supposed to be counted. The other thing is, if you go ahead and divert a contract that was meant for the company and you make profit, you should surrender that profit. For example, myself being a director here at the school and also being a teacher, a student can come to my office and they tell me they want to pay for company loan, join my class, whose charges are 8,000. But instead, I tell the student, don't pay to the school. I will be teaching you privately. Just pay 7,000. And it may be a good deal to the student because you pay me 7,000, I teach you. You pay 8,000 to Destiny, I still teach you. So it may appear good. So if the company came to realize that I diverted that student to start paying me instead of paying the company, I should be made to surrender all those benefits. The other thing is, wherever I am acting or wherever a director is acting, they must do so in good faith. Don't do anything in bad faith. Don't frustrate a process. Don't compromise on results so that maybe your fellow director looks bad. You know, at times when people have conflicts, you want to act not in good faith. You see, like the other day I was telling you, Mwalimu is not coming for the AFM, for the FM. Even today he will not come. I can choose to use that opportunity to make him look bad. I can choose to use the opportunity and I start now complaining like you are complaining. But in any act, you should act in good faith. I should come and tell you, Mwalimu is not coming for class because he's having this and this. And when he will be free, he will come and give you what? Extra lessons. So it's acting in good faith. So don't take advantage, don't manipulate results so that these are the person aonekane ni mbaya or the company ionekane ni mbaya. Act in good faith, even when you are not in good terms with the company. Actually, even when you did not support a solution in the meeting, don't go out there now telling people, your decision wamefo mimi hata nilikuwa nimeikataa. Me, I'm not part of it. Hata msikubali. That is wrong. Because you were there, you should act in good faith. Then approach the affairs of the company from a very open mind. Don't allow to be compromised. Don't allow to be lobbied. Maybe there is a person who has a contract. The other day was we were discussing in a certain board of a school. They wanted to build a class. These ones that are being built by the CDF. And the classroom is worth several millions. And on arrival to the school compound, I found the contractor is already there. So if the contractor calls you for saying hi, and in the process of saying hi, he says, I'm the one who is going to do the job. So as we discussed, uniangalie kwa macho ya huruma. And after the board meeting, we can meet in that joint there for Nyamachoma. So that guy is already influencing you. So when you go to vote, when you go to discuss that contract, you will not vote with an open what? Mind. Utakuwa unakumbuka ile nyama choma uliahidiwa. Ama ile kitu ulipewa. You should not allow yourself to do that. Don't, we are not in any way saying that you should not seek more information about the matter to be discussed. It is good you go and gather information, but you are not gathering information so that you can come and vote in a particular direction, which is not objective. In that one, what I'm saying, this contractor saying hi to me before the meeting, it is again not bad. He can say hi to me, and he can even promise me Nyamachoma, and when I go to the meeting, I still vote for the contract. Because I have all the reasons that the contract was good. But the problem is, when you have been greeted, you have been promised Nyamachoma, and you have gone to the meeting, and you reject another contractor who is better than mwenye amekuahidi nyama, now that is wrong. You should be very objective. The other thing is exercise power for proper purposes. Don't use your power to do things that are outside the articles, or rather the memorandum. Remember, we discussed what we call the object clause. And we said when you act within the powers, you are acting what? Intra vires. But when you go beyond, you'll be called ultra vires. The next one is called statutory duties of the directors. Statutory duties of directors. Statutory duties of directors as provided by Companies Act. As provided by Companies Act. As provided by Companies Act. So this is another set of duties of directors that are now provided by the Companies Act. They are more or less like the ones we have discussed, only now that they have been captured by the Act. So number one, to act intra vires. To act intra vires. That's the first one. Number two, to promote success of the company. Promote success of the company. Number three, to exercise independent judgment. Exercise independent judgment. Number four, not to accept any gift or benefit. Not to accept any gift or benefit. Any gift or benefit intended to compromise independent judgment. Any gift or benefit intended to compromise. Intended to compromise independent judgment. Number five is to exercise reasonable care, skill, and diligence. To exercise reasonable care, skill, and diligence. Another one is to declare interest in any proposed transaction. To declare interest in any proposed transaction. Another one is to avoid conflict of interest. To avoid conflict of interest. So let's look at December 2022, question 6A. Alice, you can read for us that question. December 2022, question 6A.
You have been invited to speak at the financial meeting of Sahana Limited, where three new directors have been appointed. In relation to the above statement, outline statutory duties of the directors.
Okay, statutory duties of directors. So we have listed them there, and as I said earlier, they are more of repetition of what we have looked at today, the common law and the equity codes. The duties that we have discussed is like now they're being summarized by the Companies Act. Good. Let's look at powers of directors. Powers of directors. Number one is general powers. General powers. General powers, and we write that The directors are entitled. The directors are entitled to exercise all such powers. Exercise all such powers and to do all such acts. And to do all such acts and things as the company is authorized to do. And things as the company is authorized to do. So that is what we are calling general powers. That anything the company is authorized to do, anything they are supposed to act, the directors have those powers. They are called general. Number 2, board of directors powers. Board of directors powers. And write that the directors have powers to exercise. As a board by means of a resolution, in regard to such issues as one, making calls. Number 2, issuing debentures. Number 3 is borrowing money. Number 4 is investing money. Number 5 is making loans. Number 6 is recommending bonus issue of shares. Another one is recommending payment of dividends. And another one is making appointments of company officers. So those things are repetition. I don't know whether you remember them. We wrote about them in our previous lesson when we talked about the agendas of a directors meeting. Those are the things that are discussed at the directors meeting. So they are now powers. When we wrote about them, they were agendas. Now we are bringing them as powers. Number 3, powers at a general meeting. So those are powers that you can only exercise at a what? General meeting. Number 1, to sell, lease or dispose an undertaking of the company, or dispose an undertaking of the company. Number two, to remit. Or give time for repayment. To remit or give time for repayment of any debt. Due to the company by a director. Any debts due to the company by a director. Number three, to invest the sale proceeds. Of any property of the company. In securities other than trust securities. Number four, to borrow money in excess of the total paid up capital and free reserves of the company. Another one is to contribute to charities. And other funds. Contribute to charities and other funds not directly related to the business of the company. The funds not directly related to the business of the company, or welfare of employees, in excess of net profits. So those are the powers of directors, but these ones can only be exercised at the AGM. What we mean by that is the directors must bring the agenda to the AGM, members discuss, and they either give a go-ahead or they are denied. And you have said one of them is if you want to contribute to charity, like kama sahi kuna drought eradication or drought issue, you want to give money, you must not give, you can give less than 5% or up to 5% without consulting the AGM. But if you want to give more than 5% of the net profit, then you must seek the approval of the AGM. In case you want to borrow, and what you're borrowing will be more than the paid up share capital and any reserve, that means you want the company to have more liabilities than they have capital or equity. That requires the AGM to approve. Then if you want to invest money elsewhere, other than in what we are calling the trust securities, then you must seek the approval of the AGM. If you want to give any loan to the director, and if you want to sell or to lease any company asset. So those are the three categories of powers. Then NB. The law requires that. The law requires that. The AGM and the BOD, should not interfere with the powers of each other. Should not interfere with the powers of each other. First of all. However, the following circumstances may warrant the AGM. To perform the duties of the BOD. The AGM perform the duties of the BOD. One is deadlock in management. Deadlock in management. Number two, derivative action. Derivative action. And number three, rectification. Rectification of abuse of office by a director. Rectification of abuse of office by a director. So we are saying that in exercise of the powers of the board and the powers of the AGM, every person should keep to their lane. However, there are situations where the AGM can take over the powers of the board, but there are never situations that the board can take the powers of the AGM. Because the directors perform under the luxury or under the wish of the pressure of the shareholders. Just like our politicians. The politicians, they perform under our pressure. This is your tumewapea power. When there is a conflict, you will hear them say that the sovereign power belongs to the people. So in a company, the sovereign power belongs to the AGM. So the AGM can come in case there is a deadlock in what? Management. Those guys that we put at the directorship cannot see eye to eye. They cannot meet. Now we take over. The other thing is, if they are deliberate in not taking action to defend the company, we discussed about the derivative action. We discussed in details how it's done. And when we said there is abuse of office by a director, and we seek to rectify that. Finally, let's look at limitations to powers of directors. Limitations to powers of directors. Limitations to powers of directors. One, directors are limited to only oversee. Directors are limited to only oversee. Only oversee operations and set policy. oversee operations and set policy. Number 2, directors should not contact vendors directly. Rather, contact vendors individually. Should not contact vendors individually or sign contracts without the authority of the board, or sign contracts without the authority of the board. Number 3, directors do not have a right to direct or discipline employees. The directors do not have a right to direct or discipline employees. Another one is that a director must observe. A director must observe the right of privacy. The right of privacy. As they exercise their right to inspect records. As they exercise their right to inspect records. E.g., inspecting ballots. Inspecting ballots. Another one is directors cannot receive pay. Directors cannot receive pay for serving on the board. Cannot receive pay for serving on the board. So those are the limitations that are exercised, that you should not be paid. You not be paid because you attended the board meeting. Actually, when I have attended some boards, especially in the society institutions, or the institutions that pursue the interest of society, like hospitals, schools, churches, and so on. You are not supposed to be paid. It's called an aspect of giving back to society. Yeah. And the other thing is, as you inspect the books, the records, observe the right of privacy. Like maybe there was voting, and you want to say, I must check the voting. How did so and so vote? That's my private right. You should know the boundaries. Maybe there is a report of my sickness. Don't get deeper. Don't try to dig what kind of sickness I'm suffering from, what have the doctors recommended. No, just take note that I'm sick or I'm undergoing through a medical procedure. Nonetheless, I choose to voluntarily disclose the details to you. The other thing is, as a director, you are not supposed to go harassing or dealing with employees and disciplining them. That's not your work. As a director, you should not go engaging the vendors, those people who do business with the company. Don't go signing contracts individually. You can imagine if every director was to sign contracts with whoever they want, it will be a very confused environment. You only sign on behalf of the company when the board has discussed and they have given you the mandate. So there is no any other board member who can go to sign a similar contract. And you are only supposed to oversee the operations and to set policy, but implementation is not for you. Yeah, you don't go again to do what I had earlier on called micro-managing. We have the CEO, we have set the policy, let him now implement. We have set the budget, let him implement. But you don't go there every day
checking whether what you said is being done. Wait until it is time for evaluation. You will check on that. So those are the limitations. But for me, these are things better said in theory, but not in practice. If I'm a director and there is this employee that I want to deal with, am I able to deal with that employee? How?
Yeah, it's fast.
Like now, the president is not supposed to deal with the chiefs. Hiyo si kazi yake ya kujua ni chief gani anaachiliwa ama anafutwa. Even the DC, hiyo ni kazi ya minister. Even the police is not supposed to kujua huyu polisi aliajiriwa. But does the president have powers to do with them? What do you think? How? You see, kama kuna polisi amesugua president in his tour, you only need to call the commissioner. Huyu kijana yako angalia. And that is all. It is not the president who will effect the disciplinary procedure. He already has sent what? Word. So the same thing, if I'm a director here, na kuna employee ananisugua, I'm not the principal, I'm not the CEO. So I'm not the one to call the employee. I will only call the CEO. Nimwambie kuna employee hapo, angalia mambo yake. And that is done. Those are the things we say they are on the ground. Kwa theory ni hii, lakini kwa ground ni tofauti. Yeah. Even the director does not need to employ anyone. Actually, he cannot. You only need to call the CEO. Kuna mtu wangu hapo nimeleta. Kwa hiyo interview kuna mtu wangu. And that is all. The CEO and whatever else, if they dance to that whim, they will. Now, finally, pilot of December 2021. Pilot of December 2021. Question 1. If you look at that question, the pilot of December, question number 1. Nasema, explain 4 limitations to a director's power to act that may be contained in the constitutions, the company's constitution. So those 5 limitations, we cite 4. Describe 6 general duties of a director under the Companies Act or equivalent legislation. So we already have seen the duties under the Companies Act. We therefore call it a lesson at that day or at that juncture and hope to meet in our next lesson.